Dear Venerable Sisters, Dhamma friends, we are going to start the question and answer session today too. So we'll invite Ananda to present the written questions to start the session, please.
Dear Bhante, according to Buddha's teaching, what is the explanation given in relation to the conscientious leaving the body at the time of death? In consciousness, a form of energy. Is consciousness is a form of energy. Some sects explain that consciousness roams for 45 days before entering another living form. Could you kindly brief on consciousness, vijnana, at the time of death? Thank you.
There are a lot of theories and ways are there. So if you are going to sort this out in theoretical sense, there won't be any satisfactory answer. So don't throw them away, but keep in that. Just see the consciousness while you are living. If you can't understand the consciousness while you are living, it is far difficult for you to understand the consciousness while it is dying. So therefore, whenever you are living, so to say, if you can understand the movement of the consciousness, then you can understand how it is living one moment to the next moment, and that is the micro level of the phenomena, and that's a conventional death is the macro level. So therefore, as far as you have the accessibility or tangibility or direct touch to the momentary consciousness changing from one to the other, that will be a kind of a pragmatic issue. Otherwise, this kind of thing, we have no enough data to deny, or we have not enough data to accept it. So just keep it as theoretical knowledge and try to make it pragmatic by keeping an eye with primary object, or that may be a materiality. Definitely it is not related to your consciousness by its outlook, but in reality, as far as you see the changes in your primary object, that is a reflection, that's a mirror image of your consciousness. So therefore, carefully study the object of a primary object in your meditation, and ultimately that will give the map of the consciousness, how it works, rather than thinking of others' theories and the moment yet to come, what is called death. And be aware, be diligent, be mindful in the present moment. That is the practical answer I can give.
Dear Bhante, in breath meditation, once the bell-shaped curve has somewhat flattened and the breath is somewhat subtle, are we to look for some prominence in the gap between in and out breaths? Number 2, does what is contained in this gap become more prominent?
So if it is prominent, why ask what is it? The sentence is not grammatical. It is prominent. What is prominent? What is the gap which is prominent? So if it is prominent, it is your duty to articulate it, then asking others. And instead, still if you are asking, that means you are not really appreciating your own experience under your very nose. That's an insult for your practice. You have to believe what is happening under your very nose. And whenever the bell-shaped curve becomes flat, that means your mindfulness and the relationship with the primary object is very good and it is consistent. Under such circumstances, the gap and the lack of the object or having the object, the difference is so low, very difficult to make it out. So therefore, the beginning, the middle and the end explanation is not valid when and where the curve becomes flat off. So more and more you go flat off, your nomenclature, your labeling and cutting into pieces become invalid, it becomes a flux. Under such circumstances, your mind must be open to accept it as it is rather than imposing labels into that. Moment you put into label, that means you are not appreciating what is happening in front of it. That means your past memory or perception is interrupting. So therefore your progress will be hindered. So don't worry about the labeling, don't worry about the noting, don't worry about the adverting of the mind to a particular place. Give a flat rate or totality, then progress will be very smooth.
Dear Bhante, when doing breath meditation, I seem to be forced into controlling it after about a minute or two. I remember you mentioning that it should be the voluntary breathing that we should watch. Please advise as to how one can keep at a voluntary situation.
If you feel like it is forced breathing, just disclaim your intentional activity, because that is not your intention to go and do forced breathing. If it is happening, don't worry, don't claim, disclaim it, and if there is no problem, just let it happen. Ultimately end up with no more forced breathing. If you are going to worry, that become a fertilizer, that become the food for that, and ultimately you will ever worrying about the intentional or unintentional. If it is happening, and if you have no any basic drive to do it in a forceful way, just disclaim what is happening, but keep the observation, keep the mindfulness, then naturally from this control situation to uncontrolled situation or effortless situation will happen. That is very obvious.
Dear Bhante, when watching attention shifting from one sense to another when watching attention shifting from one sense to another sense, such as from touch to hearing or visual to hearing, it does not necessarily seem that the touch or visual always completely disappear. It seems more like attention is drawn away from one sense to another sense. And there is a transition period where both senses are experienced at partial attention and can remain like this for a time, or attention eventually shifts to the other sense. I question if we only experience one sense at a time, maybe experiencing one sense at a time is likely in concentration and mindfulness practice, but not necessarily the case for all human experience. Would appreciate your thoughts.
So if you have a television with 6 channels, if you are tuned to one, that does not indicate other channels are not working. They have closed their studios. They are running, but your attention is to one. When you are shifting to one to the other, there is a transition, and you are not here, you are not there. But our mind is making fabrications because you have not very keen, you have not been very alert. So when and where it is shifting, if you keep attention, you can come out with many interpretations. You can say both happen at a time. You can say there is a moment, there is nothing at a time. Or you can say it's a mixture of both. So this is what the Buddha says. Don't arrive at a decision. Not only see the channels with the tragedy and comedy. Whenever it is changing, if it is happening and when it is changing, if you are to see, that does not indicate all the studios are closed and the broadcasting is closed. Broadcastings are there. What matters, what creates frustration, what creates the tension is the channel what you directed. So that if you are selecting it, you are selecting your way of torturing, your way of worrying, your way of tension, and that is you are responsible. There are many channels. And on top of that, there's on-off switch. You can cut off the whole television. Nothing to worry about. Always not necessarily you must be engaged with. I mean, the television company may say yes, but not necessarily. So therefore, these are alternatives. Observe it. When you observe it, without arriving at a decision, keep all the possibilities, keep all the interpretation open. That does not indicate that you are not scientific. That does not indicate you are not inquiring. That does not indicate you are not vigilant. Your vigilance will be justified by keeping the options open rather than go with the premeditated idea, preconceived idea. So that is how present-day scientists are completely camouflaged. They are completely with premeditated ideas. All the scientific research in the world today, they go with premeditated ideas. So what they see is what they are. They never scientists. If they are scientists, they have to look in. They have to be with the open-mindedness. That is the worthwhile called science. But others are just directed by according to the funds, according to the other thing, and scientists are just a mere tool. And they don't know what is happening. They are just behind the frame, gain, money. Exactly the thing when you are selecting your channel in the television, you are the person selecting your way of torturing. You are the person selecting your tension. And even without your selecting, if it is happening, main thing is not to worry because this is none of your baby. If you select, you get committed. You select whether you are crucified in the cross, or you be shot and killed, or you are being poisoned, whatever may be. So therefore, each and every intentional activity is distorting your humbleness or simplicity. So therefore, do away as much as possible. If at all happening, the main thing is see the transitional period, how much your mind is colored with premeditated idea. Or the simple thing you can do, the best you can do is have an open-minded situation. So the example given is when you are driving, you are supposed to see through the windscreen, but there is a side window and there is a side mirror. So while you are driving, so if you are a obedient driver, you are supposed to do, but immediately you can see the side window and come back, and may be some side mirror reflection, everything, and it's a totality. Within the totality, fractionism can happen. So that does not indicate two consciousness. That multivarious, now you have to understand what is the most safest way, or what is the most legal method, or following of the road traffic and kind of thing. But the consciousness is not responsible for the traffic laws. It is not responsible. It is not concerned about your well-being. It is unruly thing. So you now understand, this is my way, I have to look the windscreen. As far as I am looking the windscreen, okay. But when it is happening, it is an endowment, it's a possibility. But don't make it as a burden, don't make it as a... burden is the word. And you can have side-by-side view, or one after the one reinforce the other, that kind of view. That is the 3D film. So 3D means when you have given ranges, you can focus the closermost, and meanwhile you can see other layers in deep. So likewise, side by side happens. Accept the totality, and that does not prevent you from the being in contact with the situation, and that does not indicate two consciousness. In a whole tapestry, you can see, Upanishad Sayadaw used to say, supposing that tomorrow we are going to wind up and we are going to take a group photo, and we sit somewhere and get a group photo, and in one of your houses you are going to display, and some of your family members keep it there because you are there. But there are another 59 people here. That photo is not meant for them, but they are keeping, and when they are looking, they look your relative. But other things are there. So that is not a burden, that is not a distraction for you, because as far as you focus to your relative, you can see it, but others are there. Something like the consciousness have big capacity. So don't make it as a compulsory thing or a burden. Just keep it there. You select your priorities.
Dear Bhante, thank you for the beautiful teachings of the Buddha Dhamma for me. The sound of silence is all pervading time and space, yet it is all timeless and spaceless. Using this sound as a sense surround screen of consciousness, I am aware of thoughts and phenomena appearing and disappearing in split seconds with no apparent residue or papanchas. How can I use this sound of silence as a pivot instead of the breath or rising and falling of the abdomen? Breath, I think it is meant to be breath. Breath is not breath, something is something, the writer, if you can correct it, please, the falling of the abdomen. Sorry? It looks like COHICH to me, maybe. Is relatively a coarse and which frequently leads to grasping when it gets subtle. Maybe it is breath. If it is breath is relatively coarse and which frequently leads to gasping and when it gets subtle. In very noisy places, the sound of silence cannot be heard. What to do to continue the practice?
If I got the question corrected, the simple statement is yatapakatam vipassana biniveso. Whatever the prominent thing, make it your access. Don't worry about the inconspicuous, improminent thing. With the time comes, they will come prominent if it is necessary. So therefore, simple as that, start with what is prominent, what is conspicuous, and don't think only to have the conspicuous thing. All the other shadows are there, all the other shades are there. Let them be. They may get a chance when you are observing. One time they become prominent in a drama. The main actor is always not in the stage. He is not the main actor in the each and every episode. There may be other roles come and play. So that is the exactly thing happening, because our lenient mind, and not the mind is lenient, our education killed our multifarious situation. We are so lenient, we are writing from left to the right. So therefore we always try to see one thing at a time kind of a principle. But the nature is not so. Nature is not single dimension, not two dimension, it's a 3 dimension, sometimes it's 11 dimension. So when you are going to explain, when you are going to communicate with the linearity, you are killing. You are simply killing your humanity. Under such circumstances, this kind of question happens. This kind of problems or misunderstanding can happen, no problem. Just keep the yatapakatam vipassana abhiniveso. Whatever the prominent thing, take that as the access point. And later, the same teacher says, yatapakatam vipassana abhiniveso pacha anupahattantenapi upayena upattapetva sammasittabha. Then you will understand, while you are giving the attention to the primary thing, there are a lot of other shades and things are there. And that means your mind is not concluded yet. But you are well thriving, well established, because your primary object or main object is there, or conspicuous thing is there. Once established, then you may get enough peace of mind or space to go into details. So therefore, first thing first. That will be a very pragmatic and practical. This kind of complications never arises by if you are following this simple principle.
Garu Swamin Wahansa, thank you very much for giving us such an eye-opening series of Dhamma talks. It solves a lot of my problem areas. Bohopin, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May all these merits help you to attain Nibbana.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. No one is telling sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Yeah, something like that.
Dear Bhante, my understanding with your Dhamma lessons today, Dhamma Desana today, is to looking to one Salayatana Nirodha by closing all the other five. This is to one object rising and falling till all cease and see only Nama Rupa and settle Nama Rupa also, no, and let Nama Rupa also vanish, Nirodha. If we see this Nirodha first time, we will be able to get first Maggapala, Sovan, Maggapala Jnana, within bracket Sovan. Is this correct interpretation with metta? Is this correct interpretation with metta?
The early part of the statement I can agree, but don't project with the early part. Let other thing happen. So whenever you reduce your all the 6 sense bases to one, is a restrainment. It is after the suggestion of the Buddha, you can second it rather than letting it go for all the 6 channels, and after that take whatever the prominent proposed by itself, and then keep that in your mind to see that very thing is also not permanent. So let the changes happen. When the changes happen, don't predict, don't expect something to happen. So that will lead then onward, you have to completely put the thing situation under autopiloting. If you are going to manipulate then onward, utterly you are messing up the situation. Up to that you have to manipulate, you have to focus, you have to note, you have to delimit it, you have to discrete. And once that is happening, so then you must learn the art of letting go, and don't try to put theories, don't try to put assimilations and inferential knowledges. Of course it is happening, that is due to our habituation, but if you can let it happen, no expectation. You know, now so far it is naturally unfolding. You take the seat of the distance observer and do. Don't expect to be so one, don't expect to be so... Sanya Vedita Nirodha, that Nirodha, this Nirodha. But if you feel you are releasing, if you feel your tension is reducing, if you feel your frustration is reducing, that's a very clear indication you are on the correct path. But by putting up all the other theories, unwanted, you are creating a new tension. That is the iatrogenic effect. That is happening through the medicine or overdosage of medicine or taking in the wrong time. So it is not the mistake of the doctor. It is not the mistake of the medicine. But you don't know, ultimately you end up with iatrogenic. So that is very common among the Buddhist circles.
Dear Bhante, on your discourses, you mentioned many books about researchers into mindfulness and subconsciousness. Can you mention again author and title if you remember? Thank you.
I have a long list. If someone can send me an email, I can send it. But some of them will lead to madness. Or you may end up with the asylum. But I managed so far not to go. I don't know whether still I am off the ground. I don't know. But therefore, keep it open. And I have a list. But I can't give a recommendation. And it is subject-wise multivarious. So that is how I try to take it is parallel entertainment regarding reading. So if someone is interested in, I can send, but you have to select, or that your, how do you call it, selective absorption will decide who you are. Richard Davidson.
There's lots of YouTube things on him, and also Bhante, when you were here 2 years ago, you recommended Mark Epstein's Thought Without a Thinker. I went and read that book. It is excellent.
And psychotherapy without the self, and thought without a thinker, and giving into desire, a series of books. And so I can flatter it, I can recommend, but the traditional Buddhists may not be happy the way he presented specifically the open to desire, but the other two books are without anything you can recommend for any person.
Dear Venerable Bhante, thank you so much for coming to Perth again to teach us Dhamma. Can you please comment on the following? Stream of Vijnana is made out of instantaneous, totally independent Vijnanas of sight, sound, etc., which are generated by contacts, passa, within bracket passa. That's number one. Number two, stream of Vijnana is continuous and take us from one life to the other. Number three, therefore our good/bad karma is somehow attached to stream of Vijnana and are waiting for correct conditions to produce results. May you be healthy and unshakable.
So this is the fate of linear thinking. You try to understand relationship between one variable to the other. Of course, when the Buddha is presenting the Paticcasamuppada, he says avidya pacca sankara, sankara pacca vijnana, vijnana pacca nama rupa. It appears like linear. But in practice, never single cause gives rise to a end result. Not a single cause gives rise to end result. Not a many causes going to give one result. Instead, many causes going to give many set of causes. So, but our mind cannot understand whenever there is the multivarious causes and multivarious results. Under such circumstances, Buddha has given the most important cause and most important result. So our linear thinking is going to grasp it, hold the linkages on that. So whenever you go there, you are completely get mixed up. In a one link, sometimes you can grasp little bit, but still you have to understand this is just the access. Once you go there, you can see matrix, you can see different interrelationships. Just to enter, you take avijja paccaya sankhara. And this is, question is basically the result of a linear thinking. So therefore mind you that it is good enough to start. When you keep on practicing, the world or the mind or the phenomena or the experience is not simple as the linearity. It's a multivarious. So this is because you are not ready to practice and understand. You think you can borrow it. You think you can borrow it from the theory or by deductive thinking. I mean, it is, something is better than nothing. But as far as you are a meditator, keep this in mind, keep on practicing 1001 times. More and more you practice, you will rectify doubts slowly. That is the answer Buddha given to the Sati. Otherwise, Sati was in a linear way. He told Vijnana is permanent. And it is going from to the other. And no other thing. So if you wish to follow Sati Bhikkhu, keep the situation open. If you wish to follow Sati the Bhikkhu, follow the linearity, then you will be end up with the mind twisting and psychological games and twisting of the truth. So you are the person get cheated. And as far as you are in practical way, these questions are valid. But answer, you have to assimilate with the little bit of experience and the theory you have by repetitive application. Otherwise, we have to depend, the linearity is the only way of communication. But that is the way what is happening in the universities and the academic centers. But we are little beyond that. So give the due value for the practical part. And one day you have to answer it by yourself rather than borrowing it from others.
Dear Bhante, when I watch my breath as the primary object, I tend to fall asleep or get disturbed by thoughts after a very short period, a few minutes. But if I watch my mind not to have any thoughts, so my primary object and breath as my secondary object, I can keep free of thoughts and wide awake for long periods continuously. Within brackets, more than 30 minutes so far. And I have always come out voluntarily and not because of have bad thoughts or fallen asleep. But is this case my breath never slows down and feel wide awake? Is this approach acceptable? Can one be wide awake and still have the breath slow down? Much appreciate your kind guidance.
Throughout the writing, no mentioning about the mindfulness. So therefore, it's a bewilderment. Whether you are observing the mind, whether you are observing the breath, whether it is infested with thoughts or not, try to understand which one is, under which circumstances you are more mindful. If that is not been mentioned, I don't know what is your objective is. Your simple objective of your meditation. Not clear. So make that is clear, that otherwise you are giving a very sophisticated car to a chimpanzee and sending. Car is very good and everything is good, but behind the wheel there's a chimpanzee. No one knows. So likewise, make sure this whole retreat is to establish mindfulness. Whatever the things happen, If the mindfulness is more and more defined, if the mindfulness becomes more and more familiar, close, that is good. But without mentioning and without any respect for that mindfulness, very difficult to understand whether it is progressing or not. So therefore, please rewrite it, or please answer which situation, specifically the early part, is more conducive for mindfulness, what you think as mindfulness.
What is sound of silence?
What is the sound of the one hand clap? So that is the way you have to ask. So start with what is prominent. Don't search about anything you have not seen. That is what the sensuous pleasure. So if it is not addressing you, if it is not related to you, if it is not yet sure, don't worry. Worry about what is in front of you, what is most conspicuous, what is the most prominent, and definitely it is leading you.
Most Venerable Bhante, whenever I attend a retreat, I get the worst kind of dreams. Dreams of people who died a long time ago, who were not close to me. Dreams of torture done to people. Funny dreams of neighbors, etc. I know they are mind-made perceptions. Please explain why it happens at the retreating time. Is there a specific reason? Thanks.
So one day one professor came to Panditarama and he explained this kind of thing. What is happening? So Sayadaw was listening. He is giving a long story. At the end of his ask, you see in the rising mode or in the falling mode? You are not talking about your primary object, you are talking about the dreams. So main thing is, just see, at least just mention about your primary object. Is it happening in sleeping or in walking or sitting? That much not available. So therefore, where to start? Of course, we have given a theme and it is not concerned. So this is what I say, no communication. You have to tell, you see this in your rising and falling, or in in-breath and out-breath, or you are doing left and the right, or while you are in sleeping. Without that, I think we have no any starting point. That means no communication taking place. So that is why I recommended, as far as this Vipassana retreat is concerned, you must know simply how to write your interview report. Otherwise, if you are going to write a normal report in a court, not according to the way it is being expected, the judge will never look at the paper. He will throw away. Because it has to be presented with the due respect to the court. Likewise, this is a meditation retreat. You are supposed to write according to the format given. Without that, it is coming. I can't get access. I can't get the connectivity. So please give me the background, and then this may carry some message. But without that, this is just gossiping.
When the practice has progressed to the point of abandonment of defilements, will the sound cease by itself? Thank you for your compassionate guidance. From a very grateful yogi. May you have excellent health and happiness. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Like climbing Siddhipada. So, simple this thing I can give as a criterion. When and where there is an object, that is the sign of defilements. When then where there is no object or subtlety or calming down, that's a calming down of the defilements. So therefore, whatever prominent, try to understand and see it is changing. Do, if you need ask in the next stage, do whatever you feel conducive to calm it down. Don't expect that to happen, this to happen kind of thing. So sound of silence maybe, or sounds maybe. When we are abandoning the defilements, the abandonment of everything. No sign. That is called animitta. So that is also you can't expect. So anything appearing indicates still there are some work to do. The Burmese saying, it says, as far as the road is not continuous, you are not reached the village. When the road is finished, you are in the village.
Most Venerable Bhante, Sachitta Pariyodapanam, within inverted commas, means to purify the mind. This is nothing called the mind, there is nothing called the mind as a permanent entity. Mind arises with the mind consciousness, touching a mind object. Please explain how the mind gets purified in being mindful and breath meditation and walking meditation, which we try out is to do at the retreat. Which we try our best to do at the retreat. What is the mechanism that helps mind gets purified? Thanks.
Before that word, Sabba Pavasa Karanam is the most prominent thing. So take care about the Sabba Pavasa Karanam, then you will definitely come to know what is it. Without bypassing Sabba Pavasa Karanam, philosophically you can't reach it. So this is the part you are responsible. First, do no harm. Try to do away with all the known bad things. Then you will gradually understand what is it word meaning of the Sachitta Pariyodapanam. So therefore, first thing first. That is what the Satipatthana means. You try 3 kinds of restrainment. First is your physical and verbal, and then your obsessional kind of defilements and the tendencies. So therefore, if the first restrainment is correct, it is leading to the other. And definitely you have your rights to ask it. But this is not academic adventure we are trying. So whenever the restrainment is becoming advancing, this restrainment is advancing, Sachitta Pariyodapana is the byproduct of this advancement.
Dear Bhante, when would someone know that she is ready for taking up the monastic life? Thanks.
It's a very strange, in one particular sutta I found, specifically the Anajasappaya Sutta, you can be aware while you are in the sensuous pleasure, the disadvantage of the sensuous pleasure. And you can take a temporary going away from the sensuous pleasure and try. Even though when you try to get rid of that, the perception regarding the sensuous pleasure is disturbing you. And when and where you away from the sensuous pleasure, only that comes into being. And that is called Kama Sanya. And in order to do away with this perception, you have to take refuge of a primary object, or Rupa Karmatthana, or Kayanupassana. One day, when and where that mind is more and more settling and taking the foundation, take that object as the foundation, then you know, as far as mind is with that particular primary object, you are not disturbed by the Kama Sanya, Kama or Kama Guna or Kama Sanya, because you are sure the object is now more and more frequent. And whenever you try to see the object is not permanent, it is subject to change, and you find not only the Kama is going to give rise to the Kama Sanya, this very Rupa is going to give rise, when it is disappearing, Rupa Sanya, and that time only you are qualified to renunciate. That means up to that you can practice as a layperson. Not that even after becoming a monastic you can start from the beginning. But this, for a specific question like that, that may be a specific answer. I am quoting it from Ānanja-sappāya Sutta. You may read it in the Majjhima Nikaya.
Dear Bhante, I am experiencing the center of the gap during meditation. It lasts only for a few minutes and keeps going away and coming back. Do I need to do anything to make it lasting longer? Much merits for your kind guidance. Thank you.
So whatever prominent you have to start with. And when you keep the relationship with what is prominent, slowly, that is fading off. I am not telling you to do it. I am not telling you to expect it. I mean, that is the way it is happening. When it is fading off, you are nearing more and more to the gap. So therefore, start with what is prominent and let it play, let it show its colors. And when and where it is calming down, understand, be prepared. Now it is from the prominent state to the dark hole or the black hole. It is going. So do whatever you feel like good in order to calming down, and ultimately this momentary appearance of the calming down or the gap will be increased, and your preparedness for that also gradually will be increasing. You are the first evidence, first witness for that.
Dear Bhante, there is a monk, within brackets, very well known and respected, I think, in Sri Lanka, who is providing research finding to establish or claim that Lord Buddha was born in Sri Lanka. Like to know your views on this. Thanks.
Maybe it's good, because we need no any visa then. Being Sri Lankan, we can be happy. But the Buddha says more than his personality, his teaching is the most important thing. Make it local. Don't make it foreign. The teaching of the Buddha. When it is local, whether a person, Buddha as a person is a local or foreign, it doesn't matter. And therefore, we have no any evidence to disprove him or to prove him. And only similarities, he is also an agriculturist. That much I know. So I also coming from the same atmosphere. So you have your practice, you have the way, and definitely I will assure, more and more you practice, the doubts related to all the kind of thing will be rectified. Without practicing, you are going to compare it. You may reach to a certain extent, but never for your satisfaction. So therefore, we have the tools, we have the resources. Please continue what is prominent, and then later these kind of fringe issues will be sorted out for your comfort on releasing from your tension.
Dear Bhante, I cannot identify the difference between my breath, my in-breath and out-breath, and they quickly appear and disappear. This happens not only in my sitting meditation, but whenever my focus goes to my breath. Example, doing day-to-day activities and sleeping. Seeing the breath like this all the time gives me a tightness on my chest and or forehead. Sometimes it's like a head or chest pain, and couple of times like a pulling feeling. If I watch my breath for a longer period, pulling feeling, if I watch my breath for a longer period. Rarely I get bliss, calm and neutral feelings, but mostly feel uncomfortable and physically tired after a sitting meditation session, and need lying down and resting or sleeping. When I am feeling uncomfortable, my inner chatting increases heavily. If I focus more to get rid of my inner chatting, I fall asleep. I try to keep my mindfulness on the day-to-day activities I perform or on my body posture, especially when I am going to sleep, but my focus automatically goes to the breath. And see the tightness on my chest. I have been meditating like this for about 3 days, even though it's not comfortable. Could you please give some advice and this situation relate this to Buddha's teachings? Thank you.
2 points or 2 suggestions I can give. Whether you see the difference between the in-breath and out-breath or not, now you can, if you are sure you are mindful, make it a reason to be glad. Now you are mindful. So whether you know discrete, that discrete understanding is a chasing behind. Ultimately it's going to attention. And that is one thing. And see only the love spots. Don't worry about what you have not seen. That is kind of a loving kindness approach together with mindfulness. The second thing is, as towards the end of the writing, you have mentioned about if you can be with the posture, it's no worry, because the posture has no rising mode and the falling mode. It is a flat rate, it is like a horizon. So if you can be aware of the posture and make sure it is not an imagination, make sure it is not a hallucination, something verifiable. So it never leads to this kind of a twisting of the mind or splitting, mind splitting, or that is called fractionism. Going to be always the consciousness means split and rule. So under such circumstances, see the totality of your sitting, but still it is not mere escapism. You know, whenever you are with your body as such, you are mindful. There may be a lot of signs to understand how to verify that I am not imagining, it is mere mindfulness, I am sitting posture. That will be 50% of the answer. So therefore, whenever it is not ready to observe that kind of duality, don't try yourself, don't force yourself, and that is self-torturing. That is asking for tension, asking for frustration, and that is what we were doing, and that is the basic job of the politician. That's how the people are rule the government, rule the people, split them, make them sectarianism. And when they are fighting, you can get the lion's share. So you may be very successful in politics.
Dear Bhante, this is regarding the question that I asked you the day before yesterday about Vipassana and Samatha meditation. I did some sitting meditation, and I think my primary object was the breath. I don't go in-breath, out-breath. I just know that I am breathing. When my mind wanders, I sometimes get carried away by my thoughts. But I normally come back to the breath. I try to be okay with this because I know even mindfulness is impermanent. I hope this is enough for you to work with. If not, please elaborate on what I should tell you. Also, my breath doesn't disappear or anything like that. Though most of the time it is a kind of cool, relaxing, within brackets, temperature-wise. Cool, temperature-wise and relaxing. Thanks.
So now if that you can maintain this situation more and more with your practice, well and good. Nothing to worry. Maintain that it's mindfulness itself is you are recognizing with your keeping the face-to-face with the breath. And whenever you are in the breath, you know you are not in a sound, not in a thought, and not in the thinking. And that is very clear. And see how much you can keep the breath in view with, and that will definitely leading to less and less tension, less and less frustration, and see your own ways and means to keep the breath face to face. That means keep the mind mindful for a longer time. When the quantity of the mindfulness increasing, its quality definitely increasing. So make sure about the quantity, and the quality will come as an endowment or a gift.
That was the last question, Bhante.
So almost reaching 9 o'clock.